Vlog 56, and we are coming to you from Lake Tahoe, South Lake Tahoe in particular, which is the longest drive really from Reno. I'm here covering an event, and I don't know what I'm getting myself into. It's the Lake Tahoe Summit. A bunch of politicians are here for it, talking about fires in the lake and a bunch of other issues. I got to figure out how to actually shoot enough video to do the story, get some interviews, get back to the station in time to turn a package, which takes several hours, and get that on the air at 5 o'clock. And I'm recording this at 9:30 right now, so I don't know what exactly is going to happen today, but we shall see. After that, we'll fast forward in time and get back after it at the Peppermill later this week. In fact, after I show you some video from the Tahoe Summit, that's what we'll do. Just jumped into a 3-5 game here at Peppermill, and I sit down and I'm in the big blind. We get a limp from early position, the cutoff limps, the small blind completes, and I look down at the octo crab. Needless to say, I don't raise. The flop comes out 8, deuce, 3. I lead out for 15 and get one fold. The cutoff raises to 50 and the small blind folds. I elect to re-raise it right now, making it 145. The cutoff doesn't think too long with it and calls. So we go to a turn, which comes the 6 of hearts, bringing in backdoor hearts. I bet 150. And the cutoff shoves all in. He has me covered, and I have a little less than $1,000 because I'd lost a few hands before this actually. So I just think this is a spot where I'm beat all day long here, even though I don't know him too well. He's kind of an OMC type, but I haven't played a ton with him. Ultimately, I settle on a fold, and he does indeed show 4-5. So the octo crab curse continues. I can't win with it, and I can't beat it. I ain't choose the game, game chose me. I'm a champion, I need some trophies. I can try to lay. It ended up being a really busy week in Reno poker, partially due to the fact that the Atlantis was holding an ante-up tournament series, and the Peppermill followed suit with a big game weekend. Multiple 1025 games, including one of them that was streamed live. So plenty of poker players were in town, and we ended up having some really interesting action. The first hand that I got into after that octo crab hand came when we got 2 limps, and I raised pocket aces in the hijack to 30, and we get one call from a VIP under the gun +1. With 65 in, it comes ace jack 4 with 2 hearts, giving me top set. I bet out small, making it 40. +1 calls, and the turn comes the queen of hearts. He checks, and I bet 40 again, knowing the hands I'm getting called by have dramatically decreased. He check raises, not surprisingly here, to 125, and I think I have a pretty standard call. The river is an abject disaster. It comes the 8 of hearts, and now he bets 220. He could easily be bluffing here, and I know this given the history I have with him, but ultimately I figure there are a lot of value hands that he could have, and I settle on a fold. And there are a number of reasons that I felt later on that it was a bad fold. I'm not going to get into all of those, but he did later admit that he had deuce 5 of diamonds for a missed gut shot draw and a stone cold bluff. So I was already running very bad on the day, and I think that might have affected my decision in general. I don't think it's usually a bad call, though, to fold when the river is just an epic disaster for you, regardless of too many other factors. Next hand, we get a limp from an 80-year-old former bail bondsman, whose chances of ever watching this vlog are about as good as my chances of needing his help. We get a $10 raise from +2 over his limp, and it folds to me, and I have pocket kings on the button, and I make it 35. The small blind snap calls, which brings along the bail bondsman and the $10 raiser, who I don't even know if he actually intended to make it 10 or not. Half the time that's an accident. So with 140 in the pot, the flop comes ace 7-8 with 2 clubs. The small blind checks, and the bail bondsman, who I already know from intel from another player, doesn't play like an OMC. He has some gamble to him. At this point, I didn't know how much. He makes a move like he is going to bet, but then he decides to check. I wasn't sure what to make of that. Usually it means that they don't want you to bet. But in this case, I decide to check back. The turn's an offsuit queen. The small blind checks again, and the bondsman bets 55. The hijack folds, and I think this is a call for me, though that could be debated. It's a very small bet, and he could certainly have a queen, so I do call. The river is an offsuit 4, and now he bets 200. It just feels like way too big of a bet to have just an ace here, but the fact of the matter remains that I'm facing a $200 bet with kings on an ace high board from an 80-year-old man. To make my second general policy of the vlog, that in and of itself is usually a fold, which is what I did. Right after that, I raise 20 in the cutoff with pocket nines, get 2 callers. To queen 9-7, 2 diamonds, giving me middle set. It gets checked to me, I bet 40, and get no action. But the whole thing about getting no action would stop, and it would stop quickly. Holy sh! This bail bondsman is a legend. Since that pocket king's hand, he has not folded a single hand. He's playing every single hand, and many of them quite aggressively. I got a feeling that we're going to see some fireworks here. After learning what was happening in the game, I opened up my game. I wouldn't always try that at home. I think if I have one specialty in poker, it's making adjustments against guys like this. I open ace-8 offsuit, and the small blind comes along, as of course does this guy. With 60 in it comes ace-3-5 rainbow, and it gets checked to me. I make a small bet putting out 20. The small blind folds, which I was glad to see, and the bondsman check raises to 75. Now, given what I have now seen, I am going nowhere. So I make the call. With 210 in, the turn is a 7, and he bets 125. Yeah, guess what? That nowhere that I was going, I'm still going there. I call. So with 460 in, the river is a 9, and this time he bets $300. I didn't come all this way to not find out what kind of guy this was and what he was doing here. I make the call, and he says, good call. He shows queen 4 of spades, and we take down a pot of $1,060. Later on, the same guy limps from +2, and when the button straddled a 10, the cutoff calls, and I complete the small blind with ace-5 of clubs. The big blind calls, and the limper calls, and the button checks. So with 50 in, it comes 3-3-5 with 2 hearts. I figure top pair, top kicker is good here a lot of the time against a blind, a straddle, and a guy playing any 2 cards, so I bet 15. The cutoff folds, but everybody else calls. So with 110 in, the turn is an offsuit 9. I lead for 20, which the big blind calls. The maniac then raises me to 80, and the button folds. I still have to worry about the big blind here, but I decided to really hope he folds and just make the call. He does fold, so with 270 in, the river is an offsuit ace, giving me aces and 5s. I check, and he bets 160. I snap call, and he shows ace deuce. I think he was betting any river here, but that one will work just fine for me, and we take down a $590 pot. Ultimately, I was in the game for $2,000, and I was stuck $1,300. I ended up booking a win on the day of $26. Or to describe the day another way, I was stuck huge, but I got bailed out. The game wasn't terrible at that point, but whatever. The first hand I played. Alright, so we have Reno Grinder, who you've already seen, and we have Mason. And these guys are grinding it out in the parking lot right now.
In the parking lot right now.
What are we smoking right now? The best stuff?
Nothing but the always.
Yeah. I mean, do you get this over at the converted Blockbuster Video now, or where do you find this stuff?
On the street corner of Virginia and 4th.
Street corner, Virginia and 4th. All right.
Pluck it right off the trees.
So, let me ask you this question. Did you get hosed out of a tournament chop?
I got
Did this happen?
Tournament chop.
This man got hosed out of a tournament chop.
What's his name?
At Thunder Valley. And I don't want to say the guy's name yet, but if he doesn't make things right, we'll put him on blast.
So how many people chopped this tournament?
It was a 3-way chop, and
how much per person?
he was supposed to walk away with first place of 7,400 and give me and the other guy each 14-ish. And he gave us each 150 bucks. Said he thought that was fair because he's in a higher tax bracket because he owns all these restaurants. And he's like, I'm gonna have to pay 40% on this anyway, so I'm making less than you. He tried to justify it. And in the end, yeah, I didn't get anything, so.
Wow. So I guess the moral of the story is, I'm not sure what the moral is. Is it don't chop, or make sure you know the people you're chopping with?
Just don't trust anyone. It's the
Trust
moral
no
of the story.
one, like the X-Files said.
This guy's a millionaire, doesn't need the money, and he still took money from 2 younger people that needed a lot more than him, so.
Some casinos help with chops. Some casinos don't have nothing to do with it, like the place that they had, so just make sure when you get the chop going that the casino helps, or that you trust the person, like you said, Ben, in the beginning. Because the people, he was supposed to give him the money and didn't have to at the very end, when some casinos do it for you. So
The ones that don't facilitate chops could leave you vulnerable in this position, and you had to deal with the worst part of it. Wow. All right.
Yeah, just know who facilitates chops and who doesn't. The World Series of Poker does not, so
Right.
don't be chopping those events.
It's not a concern for me. Haven't played a tournament in over a year and a half, so I'm gonna keep that streak going. But if I continue to run like I did today in 510, that's not gonna be good either. So it is what it is. All right, gentlemen.
All right, Ben.
Enjoy some high quality weed here. All right, see you guys. All right, that's Mason and Adam, aka Reno Grinder.